You guys know how I like to do. I like to mix business and pleasure. Not to be confused with the other channel that's super secret. Anyway, no, if I have something I need to do, I like to make a video about it because it usually means it pertains to something else someone else might have to do. Today we're gonna look at probably the filthiest, nastiest, dirtiest computer that has made its way into my studio. The sad part is it's from my own home. The Li & Li UniFan SL-V2 refreshes one of the most innovative fan designs we've ever seen. The completely redesigned interlocking key provides improved radiator clearance, while the 28mm frame provides 10% better airflow compared to V1. Interlocking fan frames allow for clutter-free daisy chain, providing the cleanest cable management possible. Available in black or white, the UniFan SL-V2 can be purchased either individually or a 3-fan starter pack, including everything you need to get started. To learn more about the UniFan SL-V2, follow the sponsored link in the description below. My nose is already running being near this thing because basically what's in here is half of one of my dogs. Okay, so August 23rd, 2020 is when I built this system for my daughter and I surprised her with it. She was always asking me for like one of the, a custom water cooled build and stuff. And I was like, hey, you get good grades, anything's possible.
I swear. Thank you.
You're welcome, go look at it.
Yay, thank you.
Am I ever gonna see you again, or are you gonna forever be sitting in here on your computer? She gets basically straight A's at school. She continues to get straight A's in school. So what we're gonna do today is one, she's been begging me to clean her computer. She's like, Dad, you need to, I am seeing poofs of fluff come out of the top. Now the reason why this PC is filthy, and I know a lot of people with pets, cats, dogs, birds, hamsters, isn't it funny how much animals and humans are just constantly like shitting shit into the air? So I have 2 dogs, and one of them is a Siberian Husky. And anyone that owns a Husky or any long-haired dog knows it gets everywhere. So what we're seeing in here, and the dogs are always with my daughter. And so they have, both my daughters have a gaming room that both the computers are in, and it's kind of like a gaming activity room. And the dogs are always in there with them and doing the shake and all that stuff. And it's a carpeted room, so it's like the worst possible situation for this. And this desk, or this PC sits on top of a desk. It's not even like down near the dogs. So that just shows you how much air circulation, HVAC causes this sort of problem. But cleaning it is just an opportunity for me to have a reason to upgrade it. Now look, like I said, my daughter basically gets straight A's at school. Dude, just taking it off. There's like, dude. I can taste it. What I started to say, my daughter gets straight A's in school. Every time we have a parent-teacher conference, all they do is talk about how much of an amazing influence my daughter is on the class. She's like a natural-born leader. It's just one of those things where the teacher is just like, your student, I wish all my students were like your student. And I'm just basically have one of those proud, my honor student could beat up your bad student stickers, honestly. She could, but anyway. So she doesn't really know I'm doing this, but I'm gonna surprise her by upgrading her graphics card. She has a 2080 Ti in here. Yeah, I know, old, slow, no one wants to play with you anymore. No, the reason why realistically I need to upgrade this is remember when my youngest daughter built her PC a year and a half ago? She's got a 3080 in hers. And so all along, my 7-year-old has had a 3080 and my 13-year-old has a 2080 Ti. So I'm gonna actually be upgrading her graphics card to a 3080 today. Wish I had a 3090 or 3090 Ti water-cooled card, but I don't. But we do have a 3080 that has a water block on there that Phil used to use to edit on that would be perfect for this particular build. So anyway, we're gonna just kind of, oh my God. You can tell that's dog dander. Like you can see that that's not like, that's like dog dander. And the reason why my nose is all starting to run and stuff is I'm actually allergic to my Siberian. So this is like oh my God. I might even change out those fans today. This build has decided to just ignore all of the RGB commands that we've given it because my daughter likes just a solid green PC lighting and stuff, but it's decided to go half RGB puke. But there's a lot of air in the system too because when I turn on the system, the water level drops to like halfway down this reservoir and then we get a cascading effect. So there's just a lot of maintenance needs to be done, but I'll probably change out her fluid. Ew. To green as well. All right, I guess I might as well make this somewhat of an educational video. There are some things that will make the job easier. First and foremost, brushes like this. These are just cheap automotive detailing brushes. I've never had a static buildup problem with these. Keep in mind this could create some static depending on your environment. We are extremely low levels of humidity right now, so static is a problem where we are. vacuum attachment, an electronics vacuum, which I have one, is charging right now. These are all things that are gonna help. Some things are going to require compressed air, like blowing, look at that, blowing as much air as we can through the rad back through the direction of airflow. So instead of blowing this way and pushing it back through the rad, which is the way it flows, you wanna go down the opposite direction. That way it's pushing out the side it came in, it comes out easier that way. But the brush, as you can see, will really get into all these little nooks and crannies to loosen it up. Look at that, even the cables, look at the cables. Yeah. When my 13-year-old daughter, who by the way is kind of a clean freak, goes, "Dad, my PC is nasty. Can we please clean it?" She's been asking me for like 2 months now at least. Yeah, there's one of my Siberian hairs right there. So you can see how long my Siberian's hair is. Anyway. All right, so I am gonna be using this brush to kind of get down into like all these nooks and crannies, like in the motherboard like this, kind of down in the plug. I need to get my mask on soon. It's more important today than ever because like I said, I'm allergic to this fluff monster. So this is the graphics card I want to use in there. It's a 3080 from Asus. It has a pre-installed EK water block. My daughter is into mods in her games and stuff. Minecraft mods, Sims mods, all kinds of games that actually have a lot of texture resolution and a lot of strain on the graphics card. So the 3080 will be a noticeable upgrade for her. And one of the things I doubt is gonna happen here is that these fittings are gonna line up with where the old ones are in there. So I do have tubing ready to go to make a couple extra bends if I have to. But this used to be Phil's rig, which is why there's a little bit of orange in there, because this is when he was running it with his orange coolant. But yeah, I'm pretty sure these fittings are, like, they're absolutely nowhere near where those are. So I will be having to change out at least one of the fittings. Like that one, looks like these two might line up, like that one and that one. So I could probably reuse that too, but this one will have to be made longer. I kind of thought about doing an entire platform upgrade. If I remember correctly, this is like a 3900X or 3700X. I have to watch the video to remember. But what she does is not entirely like too CPU important. She does use Photoshop and stuff. She has a Wacom tablet. She's an artist. She loves to draw. In fact, I'm gonna embarrass my daughter right now. I'm gonna put up some of her art. She's really, really freaking good. Her aspirations, like other than, she doesn't have asthma or anything. Oh, that's aspiration, that's different. She wants to do Disney when she's older. She wants to be a Disney Imagineer / artist for their movies and stuff. So anyway, yeah, so I think we should just kind of do some B-roll version of this. Oh, go look at the socket down there. Can you see it down there?
Yeah.
That is just, ew. The cleaning part actually wasn't that bad. Yeah, I didn't use a mask because I realized we were out. So if you're a smoker or you vape near your computer, all this stuff to your computer will be sticky and just really caked on. But because this is just dog fur and dander that was landing on it while spinning, it's very dry. I think anyone that has dog or cat allergies right now is probably like, just through osmosis of this video is going while watching it. Hit like if you're literally watching this and all that dust, it triggered some sort of an involuntary response that you now are going, thanks, Jay. So anyway, it wasn't stuck. Like Phil was like, oh my God, those fans and everything came perfectly clean. So fortunately, because the cleaning part really didn't take that long, and I didn't really worry about getting in here and cleaning the back plate or anything off the card too much because of the fact that if I am gonna be swapping out the fans, I mean, obviously I'm swapping out the card, but if I'm gonna swap out the fans, it means I've gotta drain this entire loop, which I was planning on doing anyway, because there is a drain right there. You can see this side of it. So I need to drain the loop. I need to get it as empty as possible because to change the fans means I'm also going to take the top rad out to change those, which is not that big of a deal, honestly. And there's nothing against the Corsair fans. It's just Lian Li case. Might as well go with some Lian Li fans. So anyway, and then what we'll be able to alleviate is this mess, because the problem is all of this, like this is embodied by the period of Corsair, which I call the Dark Ages. They've cleaned this mess up more over time, but yeah, this is just crap. This is crappy. So I'm thinking about changing the RAM anyway to different DDR4, which doesn't require iCUE. And then because we're not gonna be using the Corsair block, nothing will require iCUE in here anymore. And Lian Li integrates with Asus Aura. That block is Asus Aura, and the motherboard is Asus. So we would literally have one piece of software controlling both the fans, because it integrates with the motherboard controller as well for the Lian Li, and the RGB. I want to point this out. Every single time in the last 10 years I have ever built a system that I have tubing coming up and over across the RAM, I see the same comments. You'll never be able to get your RAM out. This is stupid. You're not even thinking. So this is the whole reason why I am changing out these fans. And these are the Lian Li Unifans V2. So they basically look exactly like the original Unifan. Remember this? There's the SL and there's the AL. And then there's even the newest one, I can't remember what it's called, but it's got the, oh yeah, the Infinity mirror, which has the Infinity hub and on the Infinity mirror on the side. I like the edge lighting found in the original, but the problem was that particular fan forced you to have the plug on a certain side facing a certain way. And then when you go to install them on a radiator like this, let's say you want the plugs coming out the back side. Remember, they're daisy chains, so they slide together, and I'll show you, and they make contact. So you have one connection, one fan header, one RGB header. If you needed the plug to be on this side because of where the grommet is or something, and then it comes out facing you, then you see the wire doubling back and all that, which I always kind of complained about. Well, they started this with the Infinity version, and now they've brought it back to the old, I don't want to say old, but to the SLs by making the cable design much smaller and universal. So here's the new plug. Instead of being that crazy slider plug, it now is this guy here, which is just like a header. And remember, these fans connect together, so you can use this as a single fan. And because this is more of a ribbon style, you can have it go that way or that way. And look, it doesn't add this big bulk. The problem is when you had that big bulky piece that would stick out that slid on, it could interfere with fittings in installs like this. And then your other fans just slide in and interconnect. Let me line it up with the push pins, the push contact pins with the contact pins there. Like that. Boom. We now have two fans that are connected. And look at that, there's no gap. It's still one wire that powers it, and you can have up to 4 per channel and 4 channels per controller. So this is why I'm switching this. Not to mention it is, you know, a Lian Li product inside of a Lian Li case. I wish they had fixed this though. The plastic is still slightly eggshell kind of a color versus this nice bright white. So when you put it in the white case, you can see they almost look a little more gray. It may not show up on camera so well. You can see they're definitely more of a grayish white rather than a bright white. So I wish they would have addressed that. So all of this wiring is now being replaced with 2 of these. Technically, the controller box for the Lian Li also has a USB header and a SATA power connector, but all this plugs into that one box, not multiples of them. And if I wanted to, if I use this guy right here, which is just a JST to standard ARGB header adapter, I don't have to use the control box with Lian Li at all. I could just still use these off the motherboard. And to be fair, they provide them. I might as well just do that. Then I don't even have to use the Lian Li software at all. What I would have to do then is have fan splitters to have all the fans plugged into a header. I'll probably still use the control box, but they're not even forcing you. They're not even forcing you to use their box, because if you get the single fans, the 3-pack, which is right here, does come with the control box, it's a starter kit. They all come with the JST to motherboard adapter. So that means you could use this with any ARGB splitter, off your motherboard, any fan controller you've already got, and still have all these work with your ARGB software, whatever it may be, Mystic Light, Asus Aura, I forget what the other ones are called, but there you go. This is why Lian Li, in my opinion, is like revolutionizing this crap. Well, there we go. It's all done. A couple things to talk about here. Things to keep in mind when it comes to trying to have, regular maintenance on your system. One, I've already talked about it. If you smoke or you vape, or you even have incense sticks or whatever near your computer, those are all things that have chemical tackiness to them. So you would have to have a lot more involved cleaning with brushes on your fan blades and maybe some sort of a solvent on there to kind of clean up the rubbing alcohol, whatever. I just got really fortunate that none of the dander is super dry and it just was surface layer stuff, and literally blowing it out took care of all of it. And I went ahead and changed the fans because, like I said, I wanted to just sort of bring in the new uni fans in here. I showed you guys how the V2 works, and I don't know if you saw it in the B-roll or not. I flipped this around a couple times trying to decide how I wanted to route that wire. But it's nice that it can literally route any way you want now. They also have a daisy chain wire that comes in the 3-pack, so you could run, let's say I had these 3 right here on the rad, and then a 4th one in the back, which would be a very common layout. You could have a connection wire that goes from the 3 that are connected to a single by itself and still have it all running on a single channel. Obviously I went with green fluid because her favorite color is green, and because I have the L-Connect V3 software, or the L-Connect 3 software in here now, I'm using Asus Aura to control the distro plate, the CPU block, and the GPU block, but I'm using L-Connect to control the fans, and they have some pretty neat effects that are similar. Like, she just kind of likes this sort of a twinkling sort of effect. I mean, look at her wallpaper. It's like this crazy forest tunnel type thing. Think of like, she's very into like nature. Think of like fireflies and wisps and all that sort of stuff. She's really into that sort of thing. She might be a witch, I'm not sure. Anyway, moving on. So I just went ahead and added that effect for her here with the L-Connect and the Armory Crate software. It just has a nice subtle twinkle. It's not like Computex disco mode in your face. It's just real subtle and slow. But the mess that it cleaned up by getting the Corsair fans. Now the Corsair fans, there's nothing wrong with Corsair fans. They've gotten better over time in consolidating the amount of wires and stuff needed, at least with the way the Commander Pros and stuff work. Those were like first gen SP fans in there that had a box connected to another box and just wires and stuff everywhere. But you just can't go wrong with having a single wire and daisy chaining fans together. So it just absolutely, it's just so clean and easy to deal with. I talked about the fact that the gray fan, they're slightly gray looking rather than white, but once they're in here and all the green light is on, it casts such a green hue on everything you can't tell anyway. The downside is, when the system is on and there's so much green, you can't even really tell the fluid is green because there's so much green everywhere. It just looks like green hue being cast on everything from the lighting. But when the system's off or we have light shining at it right now, our studio lights, you can see that it's nice and green. I think I said earlier in the video, I can't remember, that this was an AMD 3000 series build. I totally forgot that this is a 10700K build. And I'm kind of sad that I forgot that. If I just looked at the CPU block, I would see it's a square, which would mean it's obviously, like the mounting points are square, which means it's Intel. I have a 10900K I could have thrown in here while the loop was empty. And it would have been a nice little upgrade for her with CPU. But 10700K is perfectly fine. It's just one of those things like, we don't ask a lot of our kids, especially my oldest daughter. Get good grades, be a good person, be kind. That's all we ask. And she's all those things, and I love to spoil her for that reason. So for those that are like, oh, Jade spoils his kids, like, no, she's earned this, okay? She's absolutely earned this. You're just jealous, and that's fine too. But I kind of wish I'd thrown a 10900K in here now, just to have a little bit extra oomph for her. But anyway, the RTX 3080, had to update the driver, which we did. That's all working perfectly fine. And then I threw G.Skill Trident Z Neo RAM in here, because again, all the way to the point of installing RAM, I still thought this was the 3000 series AMD Ryzen build, but it's not, it's Intel. But it works fine. So Trident Z Neo will work both AMD and Intel systems, or as a DHCP or DOCP, as well as a XMP profile. And then you can see it, I think aesthetically, with the white translucent tops and the new white writing on the back of the Asus backplate, I think it ties in the whole white-black build even better than it did before. But anyway, there you go, just kind of taking you guys along for the ride. But some, like I started to say earlier, some things that really, to keep in mind with your builds when it comes to maintenance, especially if they're rigid tubed water cooling builds like this, drain plugs are important. Anywhere. It's best to have it at the lowest point of your loop, which happens to be right here at the bottom of this distro plate. At the bottom of the loop is the ideal place to put it, but anywhere, because then it gives you a point to at least connect the tube like you guys saw, where you can start to get fluid out of the system, and then you can slowly work the fluid to that point in the system, and then by rotating it around and getting it to drain out that way. So many times I see people send me photos of their builds and they're like nice rigid tube bends and stuff, but there's no drain point. And they'll realize that's gonna be a problem, not impossible to deal with, but a problem and extra work once they start realizing, oh crap, I have nowhere to drain my stuff. I have no way to get the fluid out. And there's creative ways to do it, but trust me, they get messy. Yeah, beyond that, I mean, just when it comes to cable routing and stuff, because of the fact that I know when I put a system together, someday it's gonna come apart. And I like to keep things as segregated as possible in terms of the way they're bundled up, and not having, like, say, fan cables zip tied to power supply cables that are connected to GPUs and stuff. Because then if I have to go in there and take the fans out like you saw, I'd have to undo all my cable management to take it out. So in this instance, I had all my cables for Corsair zip tied together in their own independent runs, not zip tied against other cables. It probably was very difficult to see that because of the jumbled mess that it was prior to this, but yes, there actually was some method to that madness so that I could get those fans out eventually in the future if I ever had to. Things that I know I'm gonna have to do on systems if they stay together long enough. Flushing. For a water-cooled system, flushing, absolutely. Another one is probably gonna be changing a fan or two depending on how long the system sticks around, because of dust and dirt getting into the hubs. They wear out the fan hubs and they wear out the bearings and the fluid and all that stuff, which means eventually they'll be rattling or something and I'm gonna have to take it out. And if, again, it's all zip tied together to a bunch of just of harness and zip tied and taped, it might be like, okay, it's out of the way now, but then when you go to get back in there later, you're gonna hate life. Anyway, hopefully this gave you guys some food for thought on your systems, and hopefully this has incited a little bit of jealousy for my daughter's system. Hey, you know what? I will spoil the crap out of my kids if they're those things that I said. Good people, kind, and when you're a kid, your job is to get good grades, just getting straight A's. And this is what you get when you get straight A's and you're one of Jay's kids. And no, you cannot be my child. I already have my own children, and a few adults I take care of. All right, guys, thanks for watching. And action. You know, wow.